Hello, everyone. My name is Tenacious Turnip, and today I'd like to address what I think is currently the biggest issue in the RuneScape community: the animosity between PKers and PVMers. Back in 2007, the PvP scene was thriving while at the same time being lighthearted and fun. But now, 13 years later, despite the PvP scene being a fraction of the size it was back then, the vitriol and hate coming from both sides is the highest it's ever been. There's been a huge debate on how to fix PKing, but most of the arguing has been unproductive. Personally, I don't think the PvP scene can be fixed until that underlying animosity is addressed. But instead of getting all emotional and arguing in circles and never solving anything, like most people do, I've taken it upon myself to use logic and reason to provide an objective analysis of the situation and to finally settle this debate once and for all. Now, it should be obvious what the facts point to already, but just for redundancy, it's clear to me that PKers argue in bad faith to justify their own cruelty, and given my background as a Harvard-educated philosopher, I think I'm in the best position to expose these people as hypocrites and to prove to all that PKing is morally wrong. Now, no offense to all the PKers out there. Of course, I have nothing against PKers. I'm actually a big fan of guys like Torvesta and Framed and C-Engineer. I'm just trying to give some constructive criticism here, so let's all try and be rational. Thank you. Now, let's get started. So, one of the arguments I see PKers use to rationalize their spade banditry is to try and downplay the issue. It's only game. Why you have to be mad? These items that I'm taking from you are just pixels. They don't matter. Calm down. PKing's just a part of the game like everything else. And I can't emphasize enough how wrong that is. Now, first off, yes, my black d'hide chaps are just pixels, in the same way that my money is just paper and ink. And they might say, hey, RuneScape money isn't technically a real currency because you can't transfer out of the game without breaking the rules. As if real-world trading doesn't exist. But for the sake of argument, I'll go with it. PKing someone isn't the same as stealing their real money. It's not literally mugging them over the internet. It's just pixels. But regardless of whether or not these pixels are currency, they still have value. It takes time to get them. Let's say a PKer kills a noob at the Mage Arena and gets 2 mil. That noob's best moneymaker is 500k an hour. That PKer just stole 4 hours of that man's life that he will never get back. 4 hours of his life! Imagine if someone kidnapped someone else and then locked them in a cage for 4 hours. We all agree that would be wrong, but when someone does the same exact thing in RuneScape, people try and make excuses. So when people say it's only a game, that they PK for fun, they should ask themselves, why is it fun for you to make other people suffer? Why is it fun for you to kidnap noobs and lock them in your basement? Metaphorically speaking. And why do you do it even when people don't risk anything at all? Now, I kinda get why you would kill someone that had a big risk on them. You may technically be kidnapping them and locking them in your basement, but there's a sweatshop down there, and they're doing your work for you. That makes sense. You get something out of it. And they deserve it for being stupid. But where the PKers' arguments really fall apart is when they start killing innocent people who have nothing on them. They'll see a guy doing a clue with 0 risk, and they'll waste money to kill him. The only thing they get out of it is the sadistic pleasure they get from locking him in a cage for the 2 minutes he's running back. Though, they won't admit to this, of course. Basically, a PKer will watch a video from Torvesta, where he kills 1,000 people who have nothing on them, and then he'll kill one person that risked something, but he'll only show that one person in the video, and then he'll say, "Oh my days, boys, he genuinely had 10 mil on him. genuinely. And then the PKers that watch will say, heh, this is why you always attack everyone in the wilderness. So, even though 99.9% of people won't have anything on them, even though 99.9% of people don't deserve to be killed in the wilderness, if you include that other 0.1% and then judge them all as a group, then they do deserve to be killed. And this is the same exact logic Osama bin Laden used on 9/11. A handful of politicians were responsible for imperialism in the Middle East, but he judges all Americans as a group and then kills 3,000 people in New York! Not that I'm comparing all PKers to Osama bin Laden, of course, but there are a shocking amount of similarities. And now, I can hear the comments already. They're saying, Tenacious Turnip, that's ridiculous! PKers are nothing like Osama bin Laden because everyone consents to being attacked when they enter the wilderness! Your argument is faulty! It doesn't make any sense! Why would you even say that? And let me just make this clear. I agree with you. When you enter the wilderness, you get the warning, and you consent to anyone being able to attack and kill you for any reason. Of course, I agree. My argument is faulty. It doesn't make any sense. Why would I even say that? But I think we're all missing a very important piece of the puzzle here. And that is the age of consent. In modern society, we all agree that there is a certain age you must reach to be able to consent to anything. Even if the child says they consent, they do not consent. They are incapable of giving consent. And if a child enters the wilderness, they cannot possibly consent to being attacked and killed because they cannot consent. But do PKers make sure to check the IDs of everyone in the wildy before they kill them? No, they don't. They can't control themselves. They go after anyone they can get their greasy little hands on, whether they consent or not. And what are you gonna say in response to that, PKers? That the child can consent because of some reason you made up? That if you don't know their age for sure, then maybe that makes it okay? Or are you just gonna blame the child because you took advantage of them? Absolutely disgusting. This is why PKing is morally wrong. And now, that's not to say that all PKers are bad, of course. What two consenting adults do in the privacy of their own homes is none of my business. But when people show no regard for the age of consent and start going after children, that's where I draw the line. And now, going forward, the RuneScape community is going to have to ask itself a few hard questions. Number 1, what do RuneScape players think is more important? The evil desires of a small group of people, or the age of consent? Whose opinions should we value more? The majority, who wants to remove PvP and protect the children, or the minority, who wants to keep it in to abuse them? When will we finally stop pandering to people who care more about themselves than the health of the game? And, most importantly, how many children does Torvesta have locked in his basement? Metaphorically speaking, of course. So, that's all for this video. Hope you enjoyed. Next week, we're going to talk about the time that PKers started targeting Venezuelans, and dozens of children died slow, agonizing deaths. I'll see you then.